Hello, Brick Sculptors, and welcome back to Brick Sculpt. This is Chris, and it is time for our April sort and chat. I'm going to apologize in advance. I've been fighting this nasty cold, if you can't hear it in my voice. So I'll be taking a lot of deep breaths. You might hear a few coughing fits, and these videos are largely unedited, so sorry about that if it gets a little nasty there. Anyway, it is time. We have a lot of sorting to do. I've been building like crazy, trying to get this Lego city back in order, or I shouldn't say back in order for this little art show I'll be doing. And so I have a lot of stuff to sort here. I've also been pulling some older parts out of a larger bin of shame that's been largely neglected for a very long time from my old Lego city. So some of that's in here as well. And this is not the only bin of shame I have going right now, but if we get through that today, I'll be pretty happy with that. So let's go ahead and get to sorting. So what has been going on in the life of Brick Sculpt? Well, I have been very busy. I spent better part of a week getting really sick. And that really set me back. And fortunately, it didn't mess with my video schedule too much. I do tend to make these videos at least a little bit in advance. Not always. Sometimes I have to kind of do them last minute. So it didn't mess with my regular scheduling too much, which was good. But it definitely messed with everything else in my life because I was just behind. And then on top of that, we had a holiday in here with Easter. And that set me back also. Just a lot of family stuff to get done. We hosted a brunch. And so that's always a little bit more work on top of being sick, which is never fun. But we're through it now. We're on the other end. Things are getting better. I'm starting to get less sick. It's more just a cold now, though it is quite obnoxious. I tend to break into these nasty coughing fits that just... oh my gosh, I coughed myself into a nasty headache. So hopefully that doesn't happen today, especially with all the talking. It's hard to talk for prolonged periods of time when you're congested. So you'll hear me take a lot of pauses and a lot of big breaths, and I'm sorry for that. So what has been up? I've been working on the city. I've been working very hard on the city to get these interiors done. I've kind of come to terms with the fact I'm not going to have every interior of the city done for this little show. I'm going to have most of them done, but I'm just going to simply run out of time. But fortunately, you don't have to see the interiors unless I decide to show them to people. So the ones that don't have interiors, we just won't open those ones up, right? So hopefully shouldn't be too big a deal, because I'm not going to have time to show off all the interiors anyway. Just the ones I want to show off. So it should be pretty good. I got most of the city done. I finished up that brewery with the artist loft. Absolutely love how that artist loft turned out, and the brewery too. But that was so much fun to work on, but it did take a lot. And the majority of what you're seeing in this bin is coming from that building. Lots of browns, regular brown, dark brown, lots of dark orange, medium nougat, dark tan. All these more natural colors were used very heavily in that build. And I've been ordering this stuff non-stop if you watch my new Lego days. I've been really bulking up on this stuff. And it seems to just, as they say, I'm feeding the mock. It seems to just disappear as fast as I refill it. It's hilarious. As my Lego collection, I've always referred to it as a big Lego collection, but not a huge Lego collection. And these bins up here, they hold a little bit, not a lot. It's just designed to have a little bit of everything right in front of me at my fingertips. And it is shocking when you're in the trenches building a really, large or elaborate mock. It just sucks the parts out of those. I mean, they go from full to empty so fast. And next thing I know, I'm back on Brick Owl and time for another $100 order of the exact same stuff I ordered just just a little bit ago. Well, that's nice and stuck in there. I thought these always had a hole in the bottom. Apparently not. So yeah, we've had to do a lot of restock on parts lately. Now, as for the city, let's talk about this event. The event is the town. I don't actually live in Geneva, Illinois, but it's in Geneva, Illinois, and I do work in Geneva, Illinois. The bike shop I manage is in Geneva, Illinois. And one of the owners of the business took on this little pet project called the Geneva Art Explosion. Now, this is a new event they're doing, and basically what it is they're pairing up. It's through the Geneva Chamber of Commerce, and the local businesses are pairing up with artists as a way of cross-promoting. So the artists will get to show their stuff in the business, and hopefully the business will get some foot traffic from people coming in to see the art. So it seems like a pretty cool little event. I believe there's 40 or 50 artists involved in all the different small businesses in downtown Geneva. And the owner of the bike shop, knowing that I do Lego stuff, and seeing, I've built the Lego bike shop, asked if I would want to do a display, and so I said I would do it. Now, this is not a massive event. This is no Brick World Chicago. And I fully understand that going into it. In fact, I'm glad it's not, because that is a huge undertaking with much higher expectations. And someday I may get into that, but that day is not today. As much as it would be fun to display at a large event like that, couple things. Number one, as much as I might seem super involved with the Lego community, I'm a little bit involved with the Lego YouTube community, but to be honest, I don't do much with the Lego world outside of YouTube. That's actually why I started YouTube, was to get more involved with the community of Lego. It does take up most of my time. I have had people reach out to me from local lugs asking about, membership, all that. I'm not opposed to that. But what I do have to be conscious of is time. I do have a full-time job. I do have a child. I do have a wife. I have a very busy life, and I try to post 4 YouTube videos a week, which is a pretty big workload, but I don't mind because I love doing it. But all these things take time. There's only so many hours in the day, and I only have so much energy, so I have to kind of balance what I do. Again, I'm not opposed to doing that stuff, but if someone said, yeah, we're going to do this Lego group, you got to drive downtown Chicago once a month or twice a month or 3 times a month, the answer would unfortunately have to be no. It doesn't mean I couldn't visit every now and then, but that is just way too big an undertaking for me at this time, just with what I'm doing. But doesn't mean I don't want more to do with it. And anyway, long story short, what I'm getting at is, as much as I might seem real up and savvy with the Lego world, my world is kind of small. It's right here, and I don't have a ton of resources and connections in the actual physical Lego world. So, getting into something like a Brick World Chicago and putting up a display, it might seem like something to you guys that would be easy for someone like me, but it's actually not. I don't have experience with Lego shows. I don't know that world that well. It doesn't mean I couldn't do it, but it would be more effort for me than it would be for somebody who's well seasoned in it. Once you've learned it and done it a few times, it gets easier and easier. And I don't know if I'm ready to take that dive in just yet. Also, Brick World Chicago falls right in the middle of summer, I believe, which in the bike shop is like Armageddon. I mean, we are just busier than busy. No matter how well we staff, we're always short-staffed. And it's tricky. It's really hard to go to my boss and say, hey, need a whole week off in, I think it's June, July, one of those two. That's just like, okay, but if you do that, that's all the time off you're getting that summer. I have to be very careful with how much time I take in the summer, because we are just selling bikes like madmen and we are just unbelievably busy that time of year. So that's also tricky. But the cool thing with this little mini show is it could give me a little taste of that. You know, it's going to give me an idea of, okay, how difficult is it to package up this entire Lego city and move it somewhere, even if that somewhere is only a few miles from my house. And maybe the audience is a little smaller, maybe the expectation's a little bit lower, which would be nice. So that's kind of why I'm decided to do this. One, I have lots of customers and friends in the shop who want to see my stuff that have never seen it. But two, we'll call it a trial run of a mini Brick World Chicago or something like that, just to see, get my toes wet and see what it takes to do a small show. So, long story short, that's what we're doing. Now, what is it going to mean for the channel right now? I've been busy. I've been getting the city ready. If you're anything like me, you'll say that a Lego city is never finished. I have never finished a Lego city with all the ones I've built in my past, and I don't think I ever will, because no matter how finished it is, I always want to improve stuff and fix stuff. What does that mean for my Lego city? Well, this will not be the end of it. I do intend on bringing the city back after the show and resetting it up and continuing to work on it. Now, will this Lego city be my Lego city in my basement forever? No, that is a definite no. Part of the way I like to do Lego includes taking things apart and starting anew. As much as I do love that Lego city, space is always a concern. And it's not so much about how cool something is, it's about the opportunity space that it takes up. If I continue to keep everything I build, especially the big things, I could not create new projects. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to come apart soon. But I would predict, if I had to guess, that I will probably have that Lego city for another year or so. Get it really tip-top, how I like it, and then completely destroy it and start something new. There are some Lego YouTubers out there who have just astronomical amounts of space and money to put into this stuff. I am not one of them. Nothing against them, but they have resources I do not, and likely will not ever have. And also, on a side note though, I don't think that's totally necessary. Not to name any names, but there are certain Lego YouTubers out there that I feel like have kind of overextended themselves. And what I mean by that is they're so focused on the shock value of having something so large and so big and bigger than anyone else that the quality, it suffers, and I know firsthand it is hard to build all this stuff in the time frame that YouTube likes to see it, This is a perfect example right here. I'm going to be sitting here sorting this for the next hour just to put away a bin of bricks. I mean, think about the amount of work that goes into one of those massive cities, the amount of time you have to dedicate to it. And, you can take that time and you can really focus on the small details and the intricacies of the city and make it really pro level. But if you're trying to make it absolutely huge, one, it better be a full-time job, because I don't know how you're going to get anything else done. But two, it's just exponentially harder. And to some of these YouTubers' faults, again, I'm not going to name any names here, I just see that the focus on size and shock value is much bigger than the focus on quality of build. And maybe that's what they're capable of. I'm not going to say anyone's, I am by no means the best Lego builder on YouTube. I have some that I can admittedly easily say this person is far better than I am. But that's why I like to watch them, because that's how I learn. But think that there should be more focus on quality over quantity, and I think it also, for some people, I think a lot of people on YouTube like to see that giant, extravagant, huge setup. But I think, when it comes to adult Lego building, you need to realize who your audience is and what they're working with. I mean, I know that I obviously do this for YouTube, and I obviously, make money on this monetized channel to pay for this adventure. I'm not getting rich on it, but it pays for my new Lego days at least. That's good. So I know that I have some resources that most don't if they're just at-home Lego hobbyists. But I like to try to be at least a little bit in touch with what my audience is doing. If you're showing these giant, huge builds, they're very impressive, but they're so out of reach for most people. Most people are never going to build anything of that scale. And myself included. That's just too big. It's just too much money. It's too much space. It's too much time. And though it might be fun to watch on YouTube, it's not realistic. These aren't real. Well, they are real setups, but they're not realistic setups that anybody at home is going to just show, oh, yeah, I'd like to copy that. Let me take out a second mortgage on my house and we'll get started, So, to me, showing a small scale build, like the kind of stuff I do for the challenges, we need to talk about the spring challenge, by the way. That's, I think, what real adult mock building should look like. Or realistic, where anybody out there who's an adult can scrounge up some Lego and build a 32 by 32 scene that looks good, and you can focus on the details and not the size. That's what I like to see, because that's something that anyone can do, and that doesn't take a lot. Maybe if you don't have a lot of Lego, yeah, you might be spending $20 to $50 to fill out a 32 by 32. But it's reasonable. It's realistic. One medium-sized Lego set nowadays is $50. So if you could buy that in loose parts and make your own, all the better. It's one thing. I've always liked to create, and I've always liked building my own things, and not just with Lego, with everything. And I've heard it, woodworking is something I've always been passionate about. In different phases of my life, I've done more or less of it, because it's not always the most convenient thing to do. Although now I do have a shop now. I don't use it as much as I'd like to, because again, time is always an issue. But the cool thing about woodworking is, you can build anything. You can build whatever you want, and it might be a total piece of junk. But it's so gratifying to know that you built it, and that it's a functional thing that you can put in your house or use, or it can solve a problem. And no matter what you buy, whether it's an IKEA bookcase or a top-of-the-line one, a bookcase or something, it's not... It may be much nicer quality, it might be much more aesthetically pleasing, but it's not even a tenth as satisfying as seeing the one that you built. And I don't know why that is. I think it's just the nature of creating and the satisfaction you get out of owning something, where it's, okay, yeah, it might be ugly, it might, wiggle a little bit, it might not look perfect, it might, the drawer might stick, but it's mine. I built it, I made it, and it's mine. And even the cost, you can buy an IKEA bookcase for nothing, and the cost of wood alone is going to far surpass what the IKEA one is. And you'll get people who will say, well, it's quality material, it's hardwood, blah, blah. Yeah, that may be true, but at the end of the day, that's not why you do it. It's unless you're a real artisan, furniture is usually not going to be as great as what you could buy. Maybe not an IKEA level, but in a nicer level. But it's about the satisfaction of, this is mine, this is real, this is something I created for my purpose, and it's awesome. And that's how I look at Lego too, It's very impressive to build a Lego Millennium Falcon. But at the end of the day, you're building exactly what everyone else built for, what are they, like $850 nowadays to put on a shelf and gather dust. And, you know, if someone comes to your house and you show it, this is my Lego Millennium Falcon, you know, that's cool. It's very show-offy, but is it creativity? Maybe a little. You know, it definitely exercises the mind. It definitely gets you thinking. But you're building, you know, you're building someone else's design, and that's okay. I'm not against sets at all, but it's different, you know. And just like the woodworking, you can build your own Millennium Falcon or whatever you want to build, and it might be half as nice looking as the one Lego made, but it's yours, and you did it, and you accomplished it, which makes it that much more satisfying. Anyway, this is a interesting rant I've gone on here. Let's talk about the Spring Challenge. Shift gears here. So Spring Challenge is coming due at the end of April. I've gotten some cool submissions already. Also, keep in mind, if you've emailed me and I haven't replied super fast, I'm sorry. I do read them, and I get them all logged, and I will give you a response once I get it logged, but keeping up with it can be a little tricky for me, so it's not always the fastest reply. Just bear with me, but I will make sure I get them all. Where am I with the Spring Challenge? Well, in all honesty, I haven't even started. I usually try to do my own at least one build with the challenges, and often I'll do more than one. This one's been a little tricky just because of all the other stuff I have going on. Now, I still have time, and I do intend on building something, but the end of this month, I have about 3 weeks left. I have to break down that Lego city. I have to find areas to section it off, cut wood to put it on boards so I can move it. It's going to be a big task, and it may impact my ability to put out videos regularly for at least a week or two. We'll see. I think I can still get it done with doing the YouTube stuff. But, you know, just a warning. But anyway, I have not started on the Spring Challenge build yet. I will do one. I have to. At least one. I'd like to do 2 or 3, but I don't think that's going to happen. Just trying to get the city buttoned up the best I can is really taxing on my free time. But don't worry, I will have something to show, even if it's a small one. But anyway, I am excited. You guys have put in some awesome submissions, and I can't wait to see more. Always looking for good ideas for the next challenge. Of course, once we wrap up the Spring Challenge, we will move on to the Summer Challenge, which I have not started planning yet, but I usually get some time in between. I like to give a nice long lead time. I like to give you guys, I used to do like a month, and it wasn't a lot of time, so I like to give like 2 months for you guys to build your challenges in case you're ordering parts and stuff. The studio builders usually get them done really fast. And the physical builders obviously take a little bit longer because a lot of times they're ordering parts. But in all honesty, I like the physical builds way better. Nothing against the studio stuff. There's some very, very, very good, and I would say probably most of the winners have been studio builders. But there's something about a physical build that a studio build just can never. It just isn't the same. You know, it's one of my favorite quotes, and I have no idea who said it, but they were talking about animation, and they were talking about claymation versus like CGI. Like, we're talking really old-fashioned techniques versus super modern techniques. And they summed it up perfectly. They said, as claymation, as fake as it looks, it's real, and it feels real. And CGI, as real as it looks, it's fake, and it feels fake. And it's totally true. I mean, you can see right through it. And I nothing against either. I love fancy CGI movies. But that's kind of how I look at the physical versus studio build. You know, when you're doing a studio build, you have all the parts at your disposal, which is awesome. But sometimes, and I would say actually often, limited parts or limited resources inspires creativity. Meaning that you do things you normally wouldn't have done because of the parts you have. If you have everything at your disposal, sometimes it's too much. And sometimes you don't have to work with in the constraints of what you have, and your builds come out a little more lacking in creativity. Also, things like, if you have a really chaotic build where you're just cramming details in, like maybe, I did some videos a while back on, I did a garbage tips, tricks, and techniques where I built like a drainage ditch almost, like down to a river, like an embankment. And I had this embankment just full of plants and just littered with trash. And the connections were all funky and everything was turned. And, I'm not going to say stuff was like illegal building techniques, but they were definitely unconventional building techniques where, like, you take a bicycle frame and you have, plants like this sticking up through it and holding it in place. And you take, some other smaller things like maybe bottles or cups, and you find a way to sprinkle them in there where they stay in place, but they're not totally locked down. That's the kind of stuff that with studio, I think is near impossible. You might be able to place a little thing here or there, but getting the rotations perfect and getting all the parts into weird angles and stuff is really hard to do. And some of these more chaotic, let's call them layered builds, where they're just slapping layers of detail on. Really hard to do in studio. But if the physical parts, you can just sit there and stick stuff all day. If it doesn't look good, you take it off, you stick something else on or stick it somewhere else. And at the end of the day, with over and over and over again doing trial and error, you come up with something that looks good, and has a lot of detail in there. And that's what I have never... And I'm sure there's some people that can do that on studio, but I can't. I'm not one of them. I don't have the patience for it, and my creativity does not work like that. I have to just have this stuff and just fiddle with it. And that's how my brain works, at least, where I have to be able to physically put it where it might go, see how it looks, and then adjust if I need to. But anyway, yeah, that's why I'm not a big student. And I totally understand why people do studio builds. There's a lot of situations where it's very difficult to be a physical builder. This stuff is expensive. This stuff takes up space. I've had a lot of fans of this channel who are college students, and, you're not going to build large amounts of Lego in a dorm room or an apartment. So I totally get it. You need to have the resources, and anybody on Earth can download Studio for free as long as they have an appropriate, computer, and they can build on there with unlimited Lego, which is awesome. I'm fortunate that I do have this collection, and I don't have to use Studio if I don't want to. And it is definitely a fault. I get people all the time that I build something on here and they'll want studio instructions, or, hey, can you put it in the studio? And they're like, yes, I can, but, for some people, like I just put up that challenge a couple days ago with the snot challenge, the tech challenge. We got to talk about that next. And it's funny how quickly, within the first couple hours, we had people posting studio solutions for it. And I'm like, I could probably work that one together, but like for me, a simple studio build takes hours. And I'm like, I could build it physically in 30 seconds. I mean, like, especially like tree builds. You take something like one of these and trying to figure out how to do that in studio, like, I would lose sleep over that. But some people can do it, and some people like to do it, which that's scary to me. I find that just painful. But some people do like it. So, just different personalities. No right or wrong way to Lego. You do it your way. And obviously there's a place for it. Okay, the tech challenge. Let's talk about that. I am incredibly excited for this. It's something I've been recommended before, and I haven't done, but I've wanted to do. And the spring challenge, summer challenge, that all started as a monthly challenge. If you've watched from the way beginning, the first one I think was the October challenge, and then I did a November challenge, and then a December challenge, and I go, oh crap, this is way too much work. Because with all the voting and all the displaying of pictures, it is a huge, huge undertaking. And I do like doing it, but I like doing it 4 times a year, not 12. The tech challenge is very different, and it's going to target different people. The spring challenge and stuff like that, those layouts, anyone can do those. I mean, obviously kids can do those. We have kids categories, but those are different. That's a build. That's where you can show your creativity. The tech challenges are more of like brain exercises. So the point of it is to take, definitely more focused, but to have you guys try to learn something. And I posted that video. I'm actually filming this the next day because I have a little bit of a lead time before they go up. But I've already, within the first few hours of that being posted, I've already got solutions. I was like, that's not how I would have done that. And it's perfect. I mean, it works great. I did, when posting that tech challenge, I did already have a really good solution for it. But I didn't want to share it because I want you guys to be able to take a stab at it. And I was pretty certain like someone's going to come up with the exact same solution, and they may still come up with the exact same solution. We have plenty of time left. We've got a whole week of that challenge. I've seen many solutions very similar but not identical, and so I'm learning, which is awesome, because that has always been the reason I started this channel, was to learn and share what I know and learn what you know. Because I have, in the last year plus, grown exponentially as a Lego builder. I mean, my skills have gotten much, much sharper, and the stuff I'm building is way better than it was 2 years ago. And that's all credited to you guys, because I get to share ideas with you. Like I said, outside of this YouTube Lego world, I don't have Lego connections. I don't have Lego friends. I don't have a lug I go hang out with and shows that I do. Would I like to? Maybe. I mean, yes is the short answer. Maybe is the long answer, because it's not as simple as that. So this is where I learn, and these tech challenges hopefully can help you guys learn too. And I think they're fun because they're small, they're bite-sized, and if you don't want to do one, you don't have to, or if you do, just put a little time in it. Okay, it's done. We're not going to have some big giant reveal, and talk about how awesome everyone's builds were. No, I'm going to show in a week from time of posting. I'm going to show what everyone came up with. We're going to talk technique, which has always been the focus of this channel, and I want to kind of get back more to that. I did some little bit of soul searching on this channel, and Brick Sculpt has evolved a lot in the last year. What is it, like year and a half, 2 years it's been around. I think it's going on 2 years. The channel started as like, I want to be techie. And the problem was I wasn't super techie, so I had to learn. But I want it to be adult focused. I want it to be technique heavy, and I want it to be about learning and growing as Lego builders. And as the channel's evolved, I've definitely diverted into other aspects. I've tried a lot of things, some with success, some not with success. I know what I want to be. I know what I don't want to be. And occasionally I will get a little off track, and I have to kind of suck myself back in to what Brick Sculpt has always designed to be, which is tech focused and technique and math and skills and things like that. And I basically did some searching. I was looking at my videos in the past and see what works and what doesn't. Now, first and foremost, anything I put on Brick Sculpt, I put it on Brick Sculpt because I want to put it on Brick Sculpt. Views and likes and subscribes are secondary to me. If I think it's a good video and I think somebody out there will be like, wow, that's cool, and maybe learn from it, and maybe I'll learn from it, boom, there's a video. If it gets views and likes and subscribes, all the better. I welcome that. But that's not the primary focus. If I was solely making this channel to try to get views, likes, and subscribes and make this a full-time job, it'd probably have a very different approach, because unfortunately YouTube tends to favor a certain style and type of creator that appeals more to the masses, and I am not that creator. As much as I might want to be, we'll see. But anyway, but no, and that's always been the focus of the channel, is to do what I want to do and hopefully show what you guys want to see, and we all learn together. And I think we've done a good job of that. But yeah, like I said, I've gotten off track a little bit. Brick Sculpt reviews, it's admittedly is a failure, and it's a failure because I just don't want to do it. I got all these alt brick companies reaching out to me, wanting me to review their products, and the stuff is cool and it was fun to do for a little bit, and it's like, why am I doing this? This is what I've never wanted to do and never wanted to be. And it's hard to turn down opportunities. It's hard to turn down free stuff. It's hard to turn down something that could potentially work out, and get you views and likes and all that. But at the end of the day, I really shouldn't have been doing the Brick Sculpt reviews thing. I don't think it was on brand. I mean, that is why I separated it. It wasn't part of this channel. At least eventually it wasn't. But it failed because of me. It failed because I didn't want to do it. And I only have so much time and energy, as I've said like 10 times now on this. Sorry about that. But I want to spend that time and energy focusing on what I want to focus on, as well as what I think you guys want to see. And my regular fan base, I don't think really cares too much about seeing reviews of, alt brick sets. So that chapter is over as far as I'm concerned. I don't know that I'll be doing much, if any, of that really in the future. Because it's just not me. I don't have fun doing it. And building those sets, as cool as they are, it's time consuming as can be. Oh my gosh, those large sets, each of them, you're talking like 5 hours of building for these really large alt brick sets. And I don't have time for that. I really don't. And then I don't know what to do with them when I'm done. I've got them sitting around here. I got to find somewhere to donate them or something, because I just don't have a need, or they're cool looking, but they take up a lot of space, and I don't really need them around. I'll find a kid or something to give them to. It's always hard once something's built. It's like, what do you do with it now? I have the boxes, but if anyone ever wanted to build it in the future, like trying to take it apart, it all comes out of a gazillion bags. You can't really break it down and have it effectively easy to build again for someone. So it's kind of a one and done. I thought about like donating them to the school or something, but they're already built. Like, would they want them? I don't know. It's a tough call, but eventually I will be purging some of those alt brick sets, because I need I need the space. And they don't do much for me after I've built them. All right, we're getting down to the bottom of this bucket here. Haven't put anything away yet, but I think I just want to get all this sorted first. And then we'll start grabbing and get down to the real little pieces here. That's the end of the lot. And then we'll put some stuff away. Do a time check here. Where are we at? About 40 minutes in. All right. I usually like to try to keep these videos to an hour or so. It's shocking to me how easy it is to just talk on here. When I started doing these sorting chats, I didn't think I'd be able to entertain myself talking to myself in the basement for an hour. It's remarkably easy. I could probably keep this chat going for 3-4 hours and put you all to sleep, which might actually get me some views, you know, if you guys need something to fall asleep to. But no, I can actually keep these rolling pretty easily, and you know, as long as I stay busy sorting. If I was just staring at the table, it might be a little harder. But this is pretty mindless work. And of course, as I've always said in these sorting chats, I fully don't expect everyone to watch these. These are for the ones who want all the little nitty-gritty details and to be filled in on updates. I personally would have trouble giving an hour-long commitment to watching every one of these, even though they're only once a month. That's a lot, especially as shorter form videos become more and more popular. I think people lose their attention span. And I admittedly, I'm the same. I hop on YouTube, and when I get some downtime, and they're pushing shorts. I mean, everything you see is shorts. And you know, you have to like scroll down to get to regular videos. And then after you get to regular videos, again, they're showing shorts. And I'm like, man, everything is shorts. I tried shorts for a little bit, and I've still got some up, but they're old. And some did okay. I just don't enjoy them. They're not particularly enjoyable to make. I don't feel like they target the same type of person that I'm looking for the channel. I was hoping to making them with the hope to feed the channel. And that, okay, I'm going to show a little short tease of something, and then people will see that and be encouraged to come to the channel and see more similar. It doesn't really work like that. I mean, most of these people, they want to scroll. So they're going to hit that short, they're going to see it, and they're going to scroll. And making content specifically for shorts does like nothing for me. Now, I know shorts have gotten longer, and that had changed since I started doing them. So I think you can do like up to 3 minutes now, which you can actually put a pretty solid video in 3 minutes, especially if you're doing technique stuff. So I may have to revisit shorts, but much like many of the things on here, if I don't really enjoy it, I don't really want to do it. And shorts are not very satisfying to me. What other projects are we working on here? So Rubik's Cube, I've pretty much squared up the, no pun intended, the large one. I'm about as far as I want to go on that one. I'm ready to move on to the small one. I was posting one Rubik's Cube video a month. I think that April will be skipped, which works out good because I always intended on doing 6 videos because there's 6 sides to the Rubik's Cube, so 6 different colors of 6 different thumbnails, 3 of them for the large cube, 3 of them for the small cube, and 1 a month. And that was my plan for that series. I've made 3, and I've wrapped up the large cube pretty much. So I have 3 more for the small cube. And it just so worked out that this month, the crazy month where I have to get ready for this little show, is halfway through. So that worked out nicely, and I can take a month off if I need before I start the second half. And I think that's what's going to happen because I don't foresee myself having a lot of extra time for the cube. Like I said, I got to got to do the spring challenge still. At least got to put something on the books there. And I need to get the city ready to go for this show. So, yeah, I might have 1 month off on the cube, and then we'll pick it back up, and we'll start on the small cube. I have tried, I think I've mentioned this in the videos, this is not my first attempt at a small cube. Now, I won't say that I gave it a super great try. I put some parts together, I made a few cores, and this was long before I started the series on the cube. Limited success. You know, it was okay. I didn't push it super far. I didn't have a lot of motivation. Now that I have videos, I have some motivation not to disappoint. So I'm going to give it a little harder try here. And I've gotten a lot of ideas, both from you guys and the YouTube world. When I take on a project, I have kind of an interesting approach. I know most people, or a lot of people, will, do a bunch of research first. So before they even start, they're going to go out and they're going to look up every Lego Rubik's Cube they can find online, see how they're built, maybe find some instructions on some builds, maybe see some other ideas from other people, and then they're going to start their process. And for whatever reason, I don't like to work like that. I probably would be better off working like that, but I'm very impatient and I'm very stubborn. And I've always had this philosophy that if you start by going off someone else's work, garbage in, garbage out. So if they're doing it wrong or they're not doing it the way that you want it done, then you're going to basically end up copying their stuff because you almost know too much at that point. But if I go in completely ignorant and just throw something at the wall and see if it sticks, it probably won't stick. But it's going to teach me a few things, and then I'm going to try again, and it probably won't stick again. But that's going to teach me a few more things, and then the next one will stick a little bit, but it's going to fail. And then I'll try again, and that one's going to stick a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more. And the process is a lot longer when you do it that way, but it's original. And you will likely, at least in my experience, you'll find solutions that are novel, that no one else has tried, as opposed to just making the same old thing that everyone else did. Not always, Lego has a lot of configurations, but there's some that are a lot that are more popular than others. So you very well may circle back and build the exact same thing as someone else. But I think even if that is the case, I think you'll have a better understanding of how it works and how you got there. Meaning that even if you come to the same conclusion, you'll have a much better justification of why. I get a lot of recommendations on my videos and on my builds where people will say, oh, you should have tried this instead. And, I'd already invested hours in the build. So in my head, in like 2 seconds, I can say that will work or that won't. And, and this is no slight. I'm glad people give suggestions, and I love that. That's the whole point of this. This is not a slight by any means. But it's very easy for me to get a recommendation, a suggestion, and be, oh, that's why that won't work. And it's not me being naive or being ignorant or not open to new ideas. It's that I've worked beyond that already. I tried that one. It didn't work. I can see why it won't work, and here's why. And it's just because I've invested enough in it that I've seen the outcomes, and I know what's going to work and what's not and why. And every little thing with something as complex like the Rubik's Cube, any little adjustment or anything you add, it has consequences for the rest of the design. So, you can't just add this because it's going to be in the way of that. It has to be very meticulously thought out, and every little thing that you do has to take everything else in consideration. And that's why I love that project, because it really is testing my abilities, you know, of and my patience of building. Where the heck do those go? So if you can't tell, we've started putting stuff away. And I've got a lot to put away here. I don't mind putting away the small colors. It's always the black, gray, dark gray, and white that drive me absolutely nuts, because they take forever to put away. But gotta do it. If I don't do the housekeeping, then I can't continue to build. This bin is so sad. I thought I would have plenty, and I've tried to bulk this up, but surprisingly, they just make a very poor selection of sand blue. I thought it was a more common color than it is, to be honest. I mean, I could literally go back to one bin on sand blue, and it would hold everything. Now, that is obviously, it gets diminished, because I use it a lot in my city. Sand blue is a great color, and very realistic color, and one that I use all the time. So I do own plenty more sand blue than that, but the mock gets hungry, and the mock wants to eat, and so that's where it all ends up. Sand green is a little better. I definitely own more sand green than sand blue. Still can be a little limited in part selection, though. I wish Lego would have gone harder with these colors, and especially sand red. I don't bring back sand red always. I don't know why they decided that sand red was not worthy, because it was like literally the greatest color ever made. That's not an opinion, by the way. That's the fact. But no, I do like sand red, but it's just so limited you can't really do much with it. And of course it's retired now. Alright. Dark green is hiding in here. Dark green's another real good color. I have an okay amount of it. You know, a lot of the stuff that either the selection's bad or the cost is bad. And a lot of times it's like you can find the parts, but, you know, in certain colors, it's like a simple part, like, you know, something like a 2x4 plate, you know, 20, 40 cents a piece. It's like, okay, I like the color, but that's a little ridiculous just for building materials. But sometimes you don't have a choice, right? That's where, you know, I think alt bricks have a pretty nice place. I don't use them for that, but I could absolutely see why people would, you know, if you need a bunch of dark orange 1x6s, would turn to alt bricks. Because, you know, basic building materials, you know, in Lego, they vary in cost so much. You know, one part in an unpopular color like yellow would be 3 cents. And then you go to a popular color like sand blue, and it's 50 cents. And it's like, this is the exact same part. It's just about how common it is. And, you know, if they would do a better job in producing this stuff in a way that it's more accessible, you wouldn't have this weird market based on color, and the parts would be more accessible for mock builders. But first world problems, right? We're in the dark oranges here, and I have a lot of dark orange because of the brew hub. That building is a lot of dark orange. As you can see, my bin was quite low, but I do have a lot of parts here to refill it. What else should we talk about? You may have noticed I have all my rocket parts in here from when I did my Help Me Brick Sculpt on the Delta II rocket. And you may have also noticed that in my new Lego days, certain rocket pieces keep showing up. I am very excited to plug away at that project. I've always loved spaceflight. I went to Kennedy Space Center when I was a kid and saw the Saturn V and saw the launch pads. Atlantis wasn't up yet. I saw that later in life. But ever since that, I've been absolutely obsessed with space travel stuff. And not so much sci-fi stuff, although I was always a Star Wars buff as a kid. But more so real space travel, like what we are actually doing, moon missions and the space shuttle and the ISS and all that stuff, and the stuff SpaceX is doing, have always fascinated me. So yeah, that Delta II rocket, getting that far into the project, I couldn't not be like, I gotta finish this. So I am gonna do that project again. I'm waiting out April. April's gonna be a tough month for me. And once we get a little bit more free time, I do intend on going much further with that project. I have a lot of the parts. I've just kind of been buying them as I see them. It's a good way to chip away at it so that when it is time to actually hunker down and say, okay, what do I actually need? It's a lot more minimal versus trying to buy it all at once. So it should be pretty simple once we get to it. And the design is actually quite simple. I've already done the hard part. Is getting those boosters attached. So now that that's done, I just basically got to recolor it, build the top, and it'll be a cool little display. Had numerous people comment on how Brick Sculpt likes to build tall, pointy things. It's purely coincidence, I promise. But between a giant pencil, a giant obelisk, and now a Delta II rocket, we've got an interesting track record of tall, pointy things. And I do have the one of the, and probably the only very large Lego sets I own is the Saturn V rocket, and I bought it quite a few years ago. It was only $100, and so that's why I bought it. And even that was a struggle for me. I was like, I remember asking my wife, I was like, so, how would you feel about me buying a Lego set? And she, I don't care. What do you mean it's a Lego set? Go buy it. And I go, well, it's $100. And she's like, again, buy it if you want it. I have an awesome wife. She lets me do pretty much whatever I want, especially when it comes to buying toys. So big credit to her. Brick Sculpt wouldn't have been able to happen without her. But yeah, so I built that set. It came in, how did that go down? Either came in the mail late at night, or I was at work and I got off work at like 6 or 7 or something. And she's like, you're going to build that all night, aren't you? And I was like, yeah. So I started the build at like 9 o'clock, ate dinner, started the build, and I think I built until like 2 in the morning. I built it all in one shot. There was no going to bed. I wanted that thing assembled so bad. And that is one of the greatest Lego sets ever made. The detail on that thing, the construction techniques are absolutely insane. Really, really, really love that set. And speaking of moon missions, Artemis 2 is in space right now. I believe they've rounded the moon at this point. Keep in mind, I'm a 2 days behind. This was filmed 2 days ahead of when it actually came out. But Artemis 2 was a lot of fun. It was so much fun to watch that launch. I was at work, and it's the end of the day. We usually get a little busy at the end of the day because people are getting off work. And I had a couple in buying a bike, and we had a mother with 2 children test riding bikes. And the couple was checking out. And I said, well, we got about 5 minutes that rocket launches. And the husband was so excited. I couldn't believe it. This guy was more excited than I was. And I was the one who put it up on the TV. And he's sitting there asking every little detail about it. And he's, oh my God, we got 2 minutes to go, 2 minutes to go. I mean, he was just over the moon, no pun intended, about this rocket launch. And it was a lot of fun. And then this mother took a nice long test ride with her 2 kids. And then she came back and I said, hey, just a heads up, we got about a minute until that rocket launches. And she goes, oh, we got to go watch that. So it was pretty cool. We're in the business, and we had 5 customers standing up there with 3 staff members, and we're all watching the rocket. And everything stopped. We put everything on hold, end of the day. And all of them were plenty happy to pause their transactions and watch that rocket go, which was really cool. So I thank them for that, and I think they enjoyed it too. So, but it was really cool just to stand around with complete strangers and watch a rocket launch. Something you don't see very often. And so yeah, I've always loved that stuff. I used to watch like every SpaceX Falcon 9 that went up. Can't keep up with that anymore though. That's like watching baseball. You can't watch all the games. There's just too many. Can't watch all the rocket launches. There's just too many. But the big ones you got to watch. I still like to watch the Starship stuff because those are pretty groundbreaking and they're not very frequent. And then, of course, when you get something as big as Artemis. When I was actually at Kennedy Space Center the last time, I went, oh boy, what year was that? Probably like 2017 or 18. My in-laws were living down in Port St. Lucie, and the wife and I took a trip up to Kennedy, and we saw the new Atlantis display indoors, which was amazing. And then, of course, we saw the Saturn V. She had never been there. But when we were there, they were building outside. They were building the crawler that was going to carry SLS to the launch pad. So I actually got to see that. And they were in the process of building SLS, but, of course, it was in the assembly building. And they, since like the 90s or 80s, they've stopped letting people in the assembly building, so you can't see that part. But it was cool. We got to see the crawler, and of course, Kennedy Space Center is always an awesome place to go. So yeah, I'll get to build a Delta II, and maybe I'll do more rockets. Rockets are always fun. Long before I did the YouTube channel, I did build a Falcon 9. It was pretty decent. The colors, I didn't ever get all the right colors for it. It was close, but it had a few little parts that didn't make sense. But yeah, that was a fun little build. The biggest thing with Lego rockets is scale. So if you're trying to build them all scale to each other, it's really challenging. If you're just trying to build accurate models, scale to like itself, that's not too bad. But when you're trying to make them match other scale rockets in Lego, it's very tough because you only have certain cylinder sizes that you can use. So it gets really tricky. But, well, we're an hour in here, a little over an hour. I've put most of the stuff away. I'm onto the big colors now, which I got to sit down and actually do. And I'm getting a little sick of sorting. So I appreciate you guys bearing with me here. I hope you guys enjoy these videos. If you have any questions, leave them below. I'll do my best to answer them. That's all I have for this time, and we will see you next time.